In the literal minutes of research I did putting this together, roughly how many home video game consoles have there been? It turns out there have been roughly 100 home video game consoles, and I am not covering all of them because I've better things to do. You actually don't. Shush. We're also not including handheld consoles because we'd have to include things like the Wonder Swan. The is a Wonder Swan? Exactly, no one outside of Japan will have heard of it, and no one inside of Japan is going to watch this video. So we're just going to cover the big ones.
That's what she said!
It's 1972, and the Magnavox Odyssey has just been released. It's the first commercially available home games console. Wow, that looks awful. It does, but you have to remember, back then nothing fun had been invented and everyone was very bored. It didn't even have sound or color, and you had to stick bits of plastic to your TV screen to simulate graphics. It didn't even come with real graphics. It cost $99, which is the equivalent of about £560 in modern money. It's a wonder consoles ever took off. Yeah, to its credit, it probably got the best name of any console ever. Think of all the gun violence that could have been avoided if this had never been invented. Can we just take a sec to have a listen to the music they chose for this advert?
To any brand TV, black and white or color, to create a closed-circuit...
Why is it whistles? I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but I love whatever's wrong with you.
You're watching the most exciting game you will ever see on your TV set.
Yeah, that's a lie, isn't it?
With 3 different games. Telstar Tennis. With
yeah, that's just Pong, isn't it?
Telstar Hockey.
Yeah, that's just Pong again.
And Telstar Singles Handball, a game you play yourself.
Yeah, that's just Pong for losers.
Tennis Hockey, all 3 at an exciting low price.
Pong was a huge step up over Odyssey. Whilst the prior had no sounds, Pong came with 3 whole sounds. Wow! That's... Yeah. It also came with a lawsuit from Magnavox for copying Fable Tennis. After Pong took off, hundreds of clones flooded the market, including Telstar. Magnavox sued the big ones and made more money from licensing than from selling the Odyssey itself.
It's a real Atari.
Attention shoppers, the new Atari cartridge game is in.
The 2600 made video games a household name, bringing classics like Space Invaders, Asteroids, and Pac-Man, sort of, into living rooms everywhere. What do you mean, sort of? Well, Atari's version of Pac-Man was bad. How bad? Catastrophically awful? But shockingly, not as bad as E.T. the game. Yeah, they're still better than Starfield, though, aren't they? E.T. the game was so abysmal that Atari literally buried thousands of unsold cartridges in the desert. You're joking? Nope. They dug a hole and dumped them in. Despite that, the 2600 changed everything. They proved that video games weren't just a fad. They were an industry. Yeah, an industry that would collapse a few years later. Still, despite a few catastrophic missteps, the 2600 made gaming mainstream. It walked, so every console accurate could run. Yep, preferably away from E.T.
This is the arcade experience. We're ColecoVision.
The ColecoVision was a console made by a company best known for plastic swimming pools. What? Really? Yeah. Okay. Coleco made paddling pools, then decided to compete with Atari because, why not? Right, yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Surprisingly, it worked. The ColecoVision had arcade-quality graphics for the time and came bundled with Donkey Kong, licensed from Nintendo before they decided to conquer the planet themselves. And did it sell well? Pretty well, until the video game market exploded in 1983. Exploded in a good way or a bad way? Bad way, right. It even had expansion modules to let you play Atari 2600 games on it. Wow. That's like playing Halo on a PlayStation 5. Lol. The expansion module unsurprisingly prompted legal action from Atari, and they settled out of court. The ColecoVision was the last console Coleco ever made. I guess they went back to making swimming pools.
Will you be the one to witness the birth of the incredible Nintendo Entertainment System?
The Nintendo Entertainment System. Why are you wearing a pyro hat? Actually, do you know what? Whatever, it's fine, carry on. After the video game market collapsed, everyone assumed consoles were dead. And then Nintendo showed up and said, no, we're doing this properly. The NES, or Famicom in Japan, single-handedly revived the gaming industry. It came with Super Mario Bros., which is basically the reason video games still exist today. So Nintendo saved gaming. Yeah, with a plumber. The NES was sleek, grey. Oh, wait, sorry, that's a big grey lunchbox. Here's the NES. Yeah, it came with that iconic spring-loaded cartridge slot. You mean the one that never worked? Yeah, that one. Nintendo set itself apart by instituting strict licensing for third-party developers, preventing the oversaturation of what we might lovingly refer to today as slop. It also introduced the world to The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Mega Man, all of which went on to become massive franchises. The NES didn't just bring gaming back, it made Nintendo a household name.
This is the new shape, the new design, the new dimension of interactive video entertainment.
The Sega Master System was Sega's response to the NES. Basically, what if Nintendo, but less successful? Did it work? Define work. Did it sell millions? No. Did it bankrupt the company? Yes. Eventually. The Master System actually wasn't bad. In fact, it was technically more powerful than the NES. They had better graphics, cleaner sound, even 3D glasses at one point. 3D glasses in the 80s. Yeah, Sega was basically inventing expensive motion sickness before VR made it cool. The problem was that by the time it released, Nintendo had already taken over the world. The NES had Mario, Zelda, Metroid, and the Master System had Alex Kidd. Alex who? Exactly. Despite all that, the Master System did surprisingly well in Brazil, where it somehow refused to die. In fact, it's still being made in Brazil, right now, today, by a company called Tectoy, who's been manufacturing new versions for decades. So Sega lost, but also kind of won. Pretty much. The Master System didn't conquer the world, but it conquered Brazil. Just like the Portuguese in the 1500s.
Planet Earth, a scientist creates the ultimate machine.
At last!
A machine that will give him the power to journey into the mega world.
The Sega Mega Drive, or the Genesis, if you lived in a country with school shootings, was Sega's big comeback. The Mega Drive had faster hardware, sharper graphics, and most importantly, Sonic the Hedgehog.
You just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine. But you just
Designed specifically to punch Mario in his big, fat, stupid face. Did it work? For a while, yeah, Sonic was cool and edgy in a kind of PT's way. So really embarrassing and cringy by today's standards. The Mega Drive had everything. Sonic, Street to Rage, Golden Axe, Mortal Kombat, with all the blood Nintendo wouldn't let you have. It was a console your mum didn't want you to own, which of course made it cooler. But the success didn't last forever. Sega got a bit overconfident, started racing weird add-ons. The Sega CD, the 32X, other expensive lumps of plastic that confused everyone. Still, the Mega Drive defined an era. It gave us the first real console war. Sega versus Nintendo. Sonic versus Mario. And for a while, it felt like Sega might actually win.
Stay calm. Concentrate on the screen. You are about to experience the future.
The SNES has one of the best games ever made. Final Fantasy VII. No. Bloodborne. What? No. Elden Ring. No. Flappy f***ing Bird. What are you talking about? Zelda, A Link to the Past. Oh. Yeah, that's a really good game. The SNES is obviously one of the best looking consoles of all time. I would marry it. And include a prenup stipulating that we must kiss on the mouth at least once a day. Would that hold up in court? I will take my chances. Technically, the SNES was a powerhouse. The Mode 7 graphics chip made backgrounds twist, spin, and zoom in a way other consoles couldn't. F-Zero, Super Mario Kart, even Pilot Wings showed just how far gaming had come since Pong's beeps and boops. And when Street Fighter II hit the SNES, that was it. Every kid on the planet wanted one. Sure, it came to the Mega Drive later, but by then, the playground war was already over. And neither Nintendo or Sega had any idea what was about to hit.
The Sony PlayStation. Now see the outstanding technical capabilities of Sony's advanced video game system, and how game developers the world over can now create a stunning new generation of interactive entertainment.
Up until 1994, gaming was a two-party system. Nintendo and Sega Mario vs. Sonic, plumbers versus hedgehogs. Then Sony showed up and instead of chunky cartridges, used CDs, which meant bigger games, 3D worlds, and cutscenes that looked like actual movies. Sort of movies, they weren't exactly 4K. Sure, but at the time, mind-blowing. And developers loved that. Suddenly, anyone making games didn't have to fight cartridge limitations. They could load up full-motion video, orchestral soundtracks, in way more 3D assets. The result? An explosion of creativity we'd never seen before. Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil, Gran Turismo, Tekken, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Violent Hill, Siphon Filter, Tony Hawk, Castlevania, Tenchu, Colony Wars, Wipeout, Quake 2, Croc, Gex, really, shut up. Tomb Raider, Alundra, the list goes on. PlayStation became home to genre-defining games. One of the best-selling PlayStation games was Tomb Raider. Yeah, you want to know why that was? Now I can think of a couple of reasons. Is it Crash Bandicoot was supposed to be the PlayStation's answer to Mario and Sonic. Lara Croft kind of stole the spotlight. Crash did the marketing, yelling into megaphones outside Nintendo HQ.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare.
And acted like the mascot. But Lara was the reason an entire generation of teenage boys and bears suddenly became very interested in 3D polygons. Parents were furious, tabloids were outraged, and boys were spending a surprising amount of time alone in their bedrooms. Tomb Raider wasn't even a PlayStation exclusive, but it didn't matter. To the public, Lara Croft was PlayStation. Crash was the intended mascot, but Lara was the cultural mascot, an icon of the 90s, selling unrealistic fantasies. She was on more magazine covers than actual human celebrities. Sony did something Nintendo and Sega absolutely didn't expect. They marketed the PlayStation to teenagers and adults, not kids. Clubs, magazines, late-night TV, the message was, games aren't just for children anymore. And it worked. It became the first console to sell over 100 million units, and overnight, Sony went from the knee guy to the dominant force in gaming. Suddenly, it wasn't Mario versus Sonic anymore. It was Nintendo versus Sony, with Sega in the corner quietly crying. The PlayStation ushered in a huge cultural and technological revolution, which changed video games forever.
World. We won't go in one direction or dig where we can say. We will walk through walls. We will take a look around us. We will not be confined.
After the PlayStation stormed the industry with CDs, 3D games, and Lara Croft's polygons, Nintendo came back swinging with the Nintendo 64 in 1996. And Nintendo did something very Nintendo. Instead of switching the CDs like everyone else, they doubled down on cartridges. Why? Nintendo insisted on cartridges to keep loading times down and protect game quality. You mean stop developers from releasing shovelware? Yeah, cartridges were expensive, so studios couldn't just mass-produce garbage. The N64 was a powerhouse. It could push smooth 3D in ways the PlayStation couldn't dream of. It sold out its entire launch shipment in North America almost immediately.
So what's the big deal, and why is Toys R Us already sold out?
And the launch game wasn't just good, it was genre-defining. Super Mario 64. Yes, there were 3D platformers before it, but Mario 64 was the first time 3D movement and camera control actually made sense. Mario 64 created the blueprint every 3D game afterwards copied. Then Nintendo followed it with GoldenEye, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, often called the greatest game ever made. I have not played it. Mario Kart 64, Super Smash Bros., Banjo-Kazooie, Star Fox 64, Pokemon Stadium, Perfect Dark, with 4 controller ports built in, no adapters, it's just fun. The N64 controller looked like someone trying to draw a trident from memory after mild concussion. What's the middle bit for? Nobody knows, not even Nintendo.
This is the day you have trained for, the day you have studied for. Utilize your superior skills, your superior intelligence.
After taking a beating from the PlayStation, Sega came back in 1998 with the Dreamcast, a console so ahead of its time it felt like it had arrived from the future. This thing had online multiplayer built in before most people even had the internet. It had a VMU memory card, a tiny screen you could remove from the controller and play minigames on. Basically a Tamagotchi that lived inside your joypad. It was fast, stylish, powerful, and it launched with Soul Calibur and Sonic Adventure, games which looked like they had no business running on home hardware in 1998. Then it gave us Shenmue, Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Phantasy Star Online, the kind of lineup that told everyone that Sega was done messing around. So it was a huge success? No. Why not? Because Sony walked on stage and said the words PlayStation 2. The Dreamcast didn't lose because of games. It lost because the PS2 played DVDs. And in 1999, a DVD player in the UK cost around £500. A PlayStation 2, £299. So for a lot of households, they weren't buying a console, they were saving money on a DVD player and getting a console for free. Retailers got cold feet, Sega bled money, and just before the PS2 even launched, the Dreamcast's fate was already sealed. Which is heartbreaking, because the people who actually owned the Dreamcast absolutely loved it. It did everything the industry would adopt years later. Online play, downloadable content, built-in modem, and tried new things like second screen gaming, even if it wasn't necessary. What if your memory card is also a handheld console that lives inside your controller? Okay, but why? I do not know. But innovation doesn't always win. Sales do. And so the Dreamcast became Sega's last console. The end of a company that once stood toe-to-toe with Nintendo, shouting Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Now quietly exiting the hardware business forever. The PlayStation 2 was released in the year 2000 and immediately became the most successful console of all time. Yeah, because it could play DVDs. Well, I mean, yeah, that definitely helped. People were buying the world's cheapest DVD player that also happened to play cutting-edge games. Does this mean that PS2 is the best-selling DVD player of all time? Probably. Let's not fact-check that, but yes, almost certainly. The PS2 library was enormous, with well over 4,000 games, and it introduced or popularized some of the greatest franchises in history. Grand Theft Auto, God of War, Devil May Cry, Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, Kingdom Hearts, Guitar Hero, Silent Hill 2, Shadow of the Colossus, Burnout, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. Games like Grand Theft Auto 3 changed everything. Mostly because you could now run over pedestrians in 3D. A true leaping technology and morals. And powering all of this was the Emotion Engine, Sony's very dramatic name for their new CPU. The idea was that it was so advanced it could generate emotionally convincing graphics. Wow. What emotion do you think she's expressing? I have no idea. Me either. I'm expressing mild confusion. And yes, the PS2 technically had online play. You needed a network adapter, and every game ran on its own separate server because, you know, Sony hadn't invented the whole PlayStation Network idea yet. Still, some titles made it genuinely work. Sockum, Final Fantasy XI, Tony Hawk's Time Splitters Future Perfect, Burnout 3, Monster Hunter, they were all playable online back in 2000. So the PS2's online wasn't a phenomenon, but it proved consoles could do online gaming, paving the way for the PS3 and Xbox Live era. The PS2 was so successful, it kept selling even after the PS3 launched. It even outlived Blockbuster. Not a high bar, but yes. And of course, the marketing was typically weird, like a David Lynch PS2 commercial where no one really understood what was happening, but also there's a deer in it for reasons. By the time the PS2 finally stopped production in 2013, it had sold over 155 million units. 155 million. That's more than the population of Japan. Is it? Again, let's not fact check that, but wow, that's unbelievable. So this is the official Nintendo GameCube reveal from Space World in 2000. Wow, they don't reveal consoles like that anymore. I hope all their hardware reveals are like this. Yeah, I bet you do. The GameCube was Nintendo's follow-up to the N64. Oh wait, sorry, that's a big purple lunchbox. Why did Nintendo keep doing this? PlayStation had outsold literally everyone. Sega had fallen over and died, and Nintendo showed up with a purple plastic cube. It looked like a Fisher-Price My First Games console. Chunky joypad buttons, big bright colors, a carry handle on the back. Despite owning the most toy-looking console of the generation, Nintendo actually leaned older with some of their marketing. NTV-style editing, club music, they were clearly trying to speak to teenagers and young adults. And that contradiction didn't do it any favors. The GameCube had a family-friendly image fueled by iconic franchises like Mario and Pokemon. But Nintendo desperately wanted to attract older players too. Nintendo's history and many of its flagship titles, like Luigi's Mansion, catered to a younger audience, creating a perception of the GameCube as a kids' console. Nintendo did release M-rated games, such as Eternal Darkness and Resident Evil 4, to try and shed this image and attract older players. Unfortunately, the GameCube ended up being the worst-selling home console of the 6th generation. It lost not only to the PS2, the obvious winner by a mile, but even to the newcomer, the original Xbox. So why didn't it win? Well, a few reasons. No DVD playback when the PS2 doubled as the world's cheapest DVD player. Mini discs limited storage compared to full-size discs. Third-party developers jumped to PlayStation for bigger audiences and bigger profits. And Nintendo was still figuring out how to talk to mature audiences while selling a console that looked like a kid's lunchbox. After Nintendo brought a purple lunchbox to a gunfight, Microsoft, the company best known for Word and breaking a printer, decided it was time to make a console. Microsoft entered the console market by building one the size of a small car with an equally large joypad that people with normal hands couldn't hold. It also had something neither of its competitors had, The Rock, unveiling the hardware. Yes, I was gonna say Halo and The Rock. Yes, also The Rock was there for some reason, but also it had Halo. Halo was a revelation. It was the reason to buy an Xbox. It rewrote the rules for FPS games on controllers, regenerating shields, 2-weapon limits, vehicles, features that became industry standards. And in 2002, Microsoft launched Xbox Live. You have to remember that online was a very niche thing before this, so when all of a sudden you had this beast of a console with amazing graphics and the ability to connect people online to play games, even in teenage boys using racial slurs online, it was an absolutely magical feeling. The Xbox didn't dethrone PlayStation, but it set the stage for the next fight. The one where Sony, for the first time ever, wouldn't be the obvious favorite.
Welcome to the Avalon in Hollywood, California. I'm Elijah Wood, and MTV is here to bring you an exclusive look at the new Xbox.
The Xbox 360, the beginning of Microsoft's completely incomprehensible console naming strategy. Why didn't they just call it the Xbox 2? Because Xbox 2 would sound smaller than PlayStation 3. Oh, a bigger number equals better. Exactly.
2 plus 2 is 4, minus 1, that's 3, quick maths.
And how did Microsoft choose to reveal the Xbox 360? A woman with a bag. And that's right. There she is, slowly meandering through the crowd. I have no idea who she is, but she seems very happy to be there. And then she just takes it out of the bag and plops it on a small table. Incredible. Silly names aside, Microsoft kinda nailed it. They launched before the PS3, they targeted teens and adults, and they did something revolutionary. They made online gaming the whole point. Xbox Live on 360 wasn't some weird optional extra, it was the selling point. And the games. Halo 3, Gears of War, Bioshock, Mass Effect, Oblivion, Dead Rising, Red Dead Redemption, Fallout 3. It was a golden age. The Xbox 360 didn't dethrone PlayStation. The PS2 had crushed the previous generation. But the 360 did something else. It made people switch sides. It built loyalty. It built a massive online ecosystem. A weekend mentioned the Red Ring of Death had cost Microsoft over $1 billion.
Some faulty Xbox 360s are literally melting down while running certain games.
The Red Ring of Death cost Microsoft over $1 billion. And if that sounds like a lot, that's because it is. The 360 had a failure rate of over 68%. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Bramley, you're very handsome and have an enormous penis. No, not that. You're thinking, how did Microsoft recover from this? Oh, yeah, transparency and honesty and $1 billion. Yes, and $1 billion. If they had just ignored it, the Xbox brand might not be around today. Or I do hope Microsoft don't make any more catastrophic decisions leading to the slow decline of Xbox. The PlayStation 3 launched in 2006.
The stages of the game will also be based on famous battles which took place in ancient Japan. So here's this giant enemy crab.
And Sony must have been... what is that? And Sony must have been feeling pretty good about things. The PS1 was a huge success. The PS2 was an even more bigger huge success. That's grammatically incorrect for so many reasons. So naturally, Sony decided that PS3 should be an incomprehensible supercomputer. The first problem was the price. It launched at $599, almost the price of 2 standard 360s. And secondly, the cell processor, a hardware architecture so complicated, Hideo Kojima described developing for it as a hardship. Is that a real quote? We're not in the habit of fact-checking things on this channel, so let's just say yes. It released with 12 games at launch. Third-party games often ran worse than on the 360, they arrived later, and they sometimes cost more. In Sony's defense, they redesigned the PS3 twice. They made it smaller, cheaper, and quieter. And some of the games were incredible. You're running out of adjectives to describe games, aren't you? Shush. Uncharted 2, Metal Gear Solid 4, The Last of Us, God of War 3, Demon's Souls, Little Big Planet, Gran Turismo 5, Infamous, Journey. Did you mention Demon's Souls? I did, yes. Because it's an excellent game. I know. I just wanted to make sure you'd mentioned it. I've mentioned it. What makes the PS3 interesting isn't how it launched, it's how it recovered. The PS3 went from a very rocky start to clawing its way back and ending the generation neck and neck with the 360 despite launching a year later. So did Sony learn their lesson for the PS4? Oh yes, we'll come to that later, but the PS4 launch was basically Sony bending Microsoft flavor and having their way with them. You cannot say that. I'm leaving it in.
That's what she said!
After the PS3 and Xbox 360 were busy trying to become supercomputers, media centers, and online ecosystems, Nintendo walked in with the Wii. Oh, wait, sorry, that's a white plastic toaster. Why do you keep doing this, Nintendo? The Wii was not the most powerful console, it did not have the best graphics, it didn't even do HD, but it had something the others didn't. A stick you could wave around. Wow. And suddenly gaming wasn't about cinematic realism, it was about bowling in your living room. Wii Sports became a global phenomenon. Kids loved it, parents loved it, grandparents were accidentally uppercutting themselves. It was the first console where your grandma's backswing could give you a black eye. It also featured the first in-game body shaming tool. You mean Wii Fit? I mean the bathroom scale that told you you were obese in front of your family. The Wii was everywhere. Homes, hospitals, schools, nursing homes. It was the first console regular people bought who did not consider themselves gamers. And the games were genuinely great. Wii Sports, Wii Fit, Super Mario Galaxy, Mario Kart, Zelda, Twilight Princess, Xenoblade Chronicles, Metroid Prime. Unfortunately, when something sells over 100 million units, every company wants a piece of that audience. Cue the age of shovelware. Cheap, rushed, motion control garbage like Ninja Breadma. That's actually a really good name. Even so, the Wii changed who video games were for. It proved the casual audience was real and enormous, and it forced Sony and Microsoft to panic release their own motion gimmicks. The PlayStation, I remember those.
Hey, it's time to watch some baseball.
Okay.
After the Wii became one of the biggest consoles in history, Nintendo followed it up with the Wii U. Oh, sorry, that's a white plastic lunchbox. Are you going to do this with every Nintendo console? And immediately everyone said, is this a new console or just a new controller? Why? I'm glad you asked. Let's take a quick look at one of their promotional trailers. Switch from TV to the new controller. Draw on the new controller. Play only on the new controller.
Confess your sins on the new controller.
Use motion with the new controller. Get new views with the new controller.
Kiss the new controller.
Stay fit with the new controller. Take aim with the new controller. Play across the new controller and your TV. Is there a new controller? Make video calls with the new controller. Browse with the new controller. Share from the new controller. Get more detail with the new controller. Did they mention the controller was new? Do you see the problem? They said new controller 12 times. They said new console 0 times. I'm no expert, but I think they should have maybe mentioned it was a new console. It sold 13.5 million units. That is not a lot. To make matters worse, the dog in this video is probably dead now.
What if you could push a button and reset the entire video game industry?
The Ouya, the little console that couldn't. It had grand ambitions of being the first crowd-funded console that wasn't terrible. Did it succeed? No. The Ouya is an odd entry. I'd remember being quite excited about it at the time, but in retrospect that may have been due to a dramatic brain injury. The £99 console that proved maybe £99 for a console isn't enough. After Microsoft and Sony were busy spending billions fighting over online gaming and cinematic graphics, along came the Ouya in 2013. A tiny Android-powered cube that said, what if you could play mobile games on your TV? So an Android phone you plug into your TV that doesn't make phone calls. The Ouya first became famous because it raised over $8.5 million, which was unheard of for gaming hardware at the time. Everyone thought it was the future, and then it launched. And immediately, sorry, what's my line? Fucking hell, Bramley. And immediately, everyone realized something. £99 does not buy a next-gen console. The big policy was that every game had to be free to try, a policy that was eventually abandoned. It's good for emulating retro games. Obviously, I don't condone pirating old games. I absolutely do condone pirating old games. And the controller.
Our controller has a touchpad. You're not going to find that somewhere else. And the reality is...
The new PlayStation 4 controller has a...
The buttons would literally get stuck under the baseplate if you pressed them too hard.
Buttons routinely stick after hours, even minutes of use. The right trigger was stuck and had to be pried loose.
Gamers didn't buy them.
How many have you sold?
A lot.
Can you give me a range?
A lot.
Like, you're not going to tell me a number?
No, I'm not.
Developers didn't make games for it. And just 2 years after launch, the Ouya was discontinued, forgotten, consigned to the weird annals of gaming history, like the Nokia N-Gage. It overpromised, underdelivered, and ended up serving virtually no purpose beyond putting games already available on phones on a big screen. Okay, this is a big one.
That's what she said!
Please stop. The PS4 and Xbox One were revealed within 24 hours of each other in June 2013. Now, to quote Sun Tzu from The Art of War, the greatest victory is that which requires no battle, which is exactly what happened. Sony won without even trying. How did Sun Tzu know this would happen 2,500 years ago? Microsoft proudly unveiled the Xbox One, a console that had to be online once every 24 hours. Really? Yep. required a Kinect camera, cost $499, restricted game lending, and focused heavily on watching TV through your console.
TV experience. TV and movies, TV. Xbox, watch TV. TV.
And it looked like a VCR. Yes. Microsoft tried to pivot gaming into a living room entertainment hub. Right when gamers wanted the opposite. Basically, they promoted everything except what people actually wanted. To play games. Then Sony took to the stage and said, our console doesn't need to be online, doesn't require a camera, costs $100 less, plays used games, is more powerful, and here's a whole bunch of games you'll be able to play on it. PlayStation even released a 20-second passive-aggressive promo just to piss all over Microsoft.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
Thanks.
Legend has it he never gave Killzone back. 20 seconds, and Xbox never recovered, and now Halo is on PlayStation. Lol. The PS4 outsold the Xbox One by millions. 58 million compared to 117 million. It wasn't even close. But what was more devastating was this was the first console generation where players built massive digital libraries, which meant when the PS5 launched, millions stayed with PlayStation because switching ecosystems meant losing their entire digital collection. I hope this doesn't have any kind of knock-on effect leading to the slow decline of Xbox. Now, to be fair to Microsoft, they did listen. They walked back the always online requirement. They let you share games. They removed Kinect, but by then it was too late. A whole generation chose PlayStation, and Microsoft has been trying to win them back ever since. This is going to upset a lot of Xbox fans. I'm sure they won't mind. They've started an online petition to have you euthanized. After the catastrophic failure of the Wii U, Nintendo came back in 2017 with the Switch. I think a lot of people switched over to Nintendo. Get it? Switched, because it's called a... Yeah. Anyway, everyone understood it immediately thanks to their hardware overview video. This reminds me a little of those aeroplane safety videos. Yeah, I think Nintendo just wanted to make sure people didn't think it was an add-on for the Wii. You know, it's a console, it's a handheld, it's both. You pick it up, you take it away, it plays games. I like that it doesn't look like a lunchbox. Nintendo basically looked at every Wii U complaint and said, okay, let's not do that again. The Switch launch trailer didn't show families bawling in the living room or grandparents uppercutting each other. It showed a hipster taking their Switch to a rooftop party. I only bought a Switch to be invited to rooftop parties. I'm still waiting. It proudly says up to 8 consoles can be connected. Do you think I have 8 friends? When the Switch launched, people were worried the hardware was underpowered. But Nintendo have proven in the past that processing power isn't everything. The Switch launched with Breath of the Wild. Would this really look better running at 60 FPS in 4K? Yes, it would, without a doubt. Absolutely, I would sell your kidney for that. You leave my kidneys alone. Look, if you could enjoy GoldenEye at 10 FPS, you'll damn well enjoy Breath of the Wild at 20 FPS. So yes, maybe it was a little underpowered, but while Sony and Microsoft were fighting a console hardware war, Nintendo showed up beating their own drum, not like that, and sold over 150 million units, making the Switch the second best-selling console of all time. The Xbox Series X and S launched in 2020, and the first thing anyone said when they saw it was, a fridge! They've released a fridge! And Microsoft, instead of denying it, said, yeah, fine, okay, let's go with it. They literally built a real full-size Xbox mini fridge. But the design actually makes sense. It's basically a compact PC tower. It's quiet, it's powerful, it doesn't melt. All excellent qualities for both consoles and refrigerators. This was Microsoft's whole strategy. Stop trying to do weird things, stop trying to force Kinect, stop trying to reinvent television, just make a really powerful box that plays games. So it's like a gaming PC. Yeah, except you can't upgrade it or install your own software. I did briefly own a Series X. I bought one to replace my girlfriend because she left me. Unfortunately, I also bought Starfield, which gave me PTSD because it's so bad. That's gonna upset a lot of Starfield fans. I'm sure they won't mind. They've started a GoFundMe to have you flown to Dignitas. I don't want to go to Dignitas. The dashboard is fine, it's fast, it's clean, it's efficient. That's a polite way of saying it has my personality, isn't it? The Series X was the most powerful console of its generation. 12 teraflops, ray tracing, NVMe, SSD, something megabytes. Look, I don't really understand the hardware specs, but, 12 flops, wow. But there was one tiny problem. Microsoft launched the Series X with nothing you couldn't play on PS5. What do you mean, nothing? I mean, nothing. Halo Infinite? Delayed. Fable? Not ready. Perfect Dark also wasn't ready and eventually got cancelled. Everwild wasn't ready and also got cancelled. Starfield was years away and was the worst game ever made. Apparently, the next Xbox will be super expensive and have no exclusives. Ooh, I can't wait for that. To Microsoft's credit, Game Pass carried the console. Tons of games, day one releases, play anywhere. Game Pass became the actual selling point more than the console itself. And despite all the power, all the services, all the engineering, Microsoft still struggled with first-party output. They started putting formerly Xbox exclusive games on PlayStation. Lol. The Series X is a great console, but it feels like a console waiting for Microsoft's game studios to catch up. And what about Redfall? The PS5 launched in 2020, and immediately after the reveal trailer, everyone asked, "So how much is it?" To which Sony said, "It's beautiful, isn't it?" "Yes, but how much does it cost?" "It's white and blue. Very nice, but how much is it?" "Look at the balls." "Yes, but how much is it?" "You're gonna buy one anyway." "When does it release?" "No." And then it released, and nobody could buy one. Scalpers got them, bots got them. For the first 2 years, the PS5 was basically unobtainable. But for the people who finally got their hands on it, the PS5 had something special. DualSense, the controller with advanced haptics and adaptive triggers, paired with Astrobot, which is completely free. It was the first time a controller made people say, "That feels like sand." It's such a good game. One of the things that made the PS5 feel like a real PlayStation console were its early exclusives, like Demon's Souls, Ratchet & Clank: A Rift Apart, Returnal, Spider-Man, God of War Ragnarok, games you couldn't play anywhere else at launch. Once supply finally stabilized in 2022, the PS5 exploded. Tens of millions sold. The PS5, at time of writing, has sold about 90 million units compared to the Series X and S combined sales of about 34 million. One thing I will say though is that even after owning a PS5 for years, I still don't know which of these is the PAL button and which is the eject button. I don't know whose idea these were, but I hate you.
I hate you so much.
How did Nintendo create a follow-up to their most popular console ever? By keeping the fundamentals almost identical, beefing everything up and releasing the exact same games, but running at a higher frame rate. That is genius. I'm being serious too. If your games are as good as Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, you're onto a winner. Then throw in Cyberpunk and a new Mario Kart. Don't forget the Welcome Tour. You mean the £8 instruction manual. Yeah. They also put a 2 at the end of the name, so people knew it wasn't a Wii add-on. Whilst Sony and Microsoft organized the biggest console reveals, Nintendo goes, "Guys, I uploaded the Switch 2 ASMR video to YouTube. Yeah, no, it's done. Shall we get some coffee?" Other companies go, "Here's 10 teraflops, ray tracing, liquid metal cooling." Nintendo goes, "Here's a better Switch." And everyone claps. Because, as always, Nintendo isn't selling hardware, they're selling fun. It technically can output 4K. Or 120 FPS. What, like a real console? Yes, like a real console. It's mostly backwards compatible with original Switch titles and old Joy-Cons. The new Joy-Cons feature the same stick drift as the originals too. That's a bit disappointing, Nintendo. It's not Nintendo's job to disappoint you either. Your parents should be doing that. Reviewers loved it. Exactly good enough. More than good enough. The ultimate handheld games console. And that is every console, 26 consoles, ever released, from the Magnavox Odyssey to the Switch 2, from table tennis to Tomb Raider, Saboteur to Stellar Blade, Mario to Metroid. There's some sort of theme here. The last few years in gaming have been phenomenal. It's difficult to really complain. PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, all fantastic, and to be honest, I think whichever platform you play on, we've all been spoiled. The future is probably streaming, probably subscriptions, probably ads, probably digital only, probably some terrifying capitalist nightmare where a game costs £100 and is made entirely by an AI that's been trained on nothing but male rank fantasies. But no matter what shape they take, consoles will always be special, because nothing beats sitting down, picking up a controller, and pretending for a few hours that you're not an adult living in a constant stream of fascist shit. Instead, you're called Lara Croft. You can do somersaults. You can steal things from other countries because you're British, so it's fine. And you have massive thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below which is your favorite console and why it's the PS4. Don't forget to subscribe.
I know where you live.
Yay, subscribe. I love you all. Bye.
Blah, 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 blah.